I find your amateur attempts at torture to be quite pleasurable. I could resist it for cycles.
Maybe you can, or maybe you can't. But this rod will make it a little more difficult.
It was really about stripping away the unnecessary things. Stripping away fear, stripping away a desire to be liked, stripping away warmth, actually, which isn't an unnecessary thing. And probably the thing I concentrated most on is that she's observant. She absolutely...
I can hear your heart.
Focuses, you know, most things are an important game, so you check out what your opponent's doing. And that, when you do that, you're not looking at yourself anymore, you're not really even aware of yourself, you're just going zook onto the other person. And that was Journey into Grazer for me. And the fact that, for me anyway, she's very cerebral. I know people don't notice the brains as much as they should, but yeah, for me, that the brain is where... So for me, she kind of centres in the eyes and the brain, and that is focusing really importantly on what's going on and how to win the game.
And this face from your home planet?
I think so.
Do you know what this means?
Uh-huh.
It means our two species may be very closely linked. Which does not surprise me at all.
I think what drew me to her was her intelligence, because it's not very often that a female role is actually very intelligent. They are often very lovely, they are often very passionate, which are all good things to play. They often love greatly or feel deeply, but they don't necessarily think in a complex manner. And even a lot of Shakespearean, you know, women who are can't be morons because they speak well, but they don't plot in quite the same way that she does. And that was good, you know, like in a visceral, that intelligence was stimulating to me viscerally, and that's what I loved about her. So I must admit that there is a kind of irony to me that the costume overrode that, probably, in people's awareness of who she was, and which I extremely naively didn't realise was going to happen.
We're uniting as much of the uncharted territories as possible.
The idea was Napoleon, therefore the short black hair, the jacket, you know, the tailcoat, the velvet, that kind of, the sort of the upstart dictator who, you know, controls the universe, which Napoleon did in a pretty amazing way at the time that he was in power. He was, you know, every piece of information about the running of France and other countries that he'd taken over were coming through him. He hardly slept. So I liked the Napoleon thing. I've watched some documentaries about it. And the first costume design had a polo neck. A polo neck? Yeah, you guys say that. And I think the fantastic costume designer decided, well, what he said to me was that with black hair, black costume, black and darkish sets most of the time, it was going to look a bit like Floating Head Girl. So he said, how do you feel about wearing a low-cut top? I went, fine. It really didn't cross my mind what the implications would be. And when I saw it, even when I tried it on, I was thinking in terms of a soldier showing their chest. You know, that Dargo shows his chest. There's a kind of bravery and arrogance about going, do you want to stab me? Just give it a shot. So that was where my head was at, and that's the naivety that I probably displayed. I didn't think about the girly bits of having a low-cut top, really didn't. I guess in some ways I did, and I just thought that was gutsy too. That's the same sort of thing. That's like, you know, you want to stab me or do you want to look at my tits? And I really don't care if you're going to do either, because I'm going to win this interaction.
Do as you are ordered, Lieutenant.
So, but it really wasn't until I walked out on set that I kind of went, I think people are going to be looking at my chest in a way that I wasn't expecting. And yeah, there's been, and that led, of course, to her sex swipe, and you know, that would never have come to the writer's minds had she been wearing something neck to knee. So obviously, then all the, you know, her sexuality and her sexual manipulation of people, and her, you know, sexual road to power became an integral part of the character, which actually is fine by me. I think that it makes absolute sense to use whatever. You know, if you are ruthless, ambitious, cold and calculating, then you use whatever works. And I don't think, you know, I don't think she had any moral or ethical stance on anything, actually. And so I didn't find that kind of disturbing, that she'd, from a, you know, feminist perspective, she's using sex. But I also would have liked her to use more violence to kind of balance it, so that it wasn't, so she wasn't diminished or demeaned by being sexual, so that was just one of the weapons.